table and we taking our portions. Of course, the discourse is a sativa show where the content and the guest is unbelievable, but we speak in codes. It's the podcast of the culture, so you already know. We from that big West Coast, boy, where it never snows, where the topics get hot, but the rosin is cold. Here's the next episode, yeah.
Welcome everybody to another show of Joint Force. I'm your host, Luke Scarmazzo. I have an awesome guest for you guys today. I have with me the founder of Lemonnade Antioch, the founder of KANNA Oakland, consultant, author, real estate agent, mother, legacy OG, advocate, educator, entrepreneur, regulator expert, project manager, Patti the Baddie, Nurse Patti, the strategist and intellect behind the deal, Patti O'Brien.
That's a long list of expectation right there.
I mean, listen, when I was like going through my research and like these like intros are really important to me because I like to really like edify what it is the guest does, right? So when I was going through the intros here, it's like I was like writing these down. I'm like, wow, like, and I saw real estate agent. And when I wrote that down in comparison to everything else, I was like, Patti's like the Renaissance woman. For real.
The real estate really is sort of irrelevant to everything else, but it was just a way to save money on broker fees. It was
dope though. Like, cause I just was like, you know, registered nurse and then all these like, and I know like everything that you've done in the cannabis industry we'll talk about, but like all the other cool like hats that you wear, it's just impressive. Like in your life, how many different things that you've done.
Yeah, I definitely, now I'm feeling my age more so than anything. But I've done a lot of things. They've all been like a learning experience. And I think that one of those things each led to another thing. And it was ultimately about like how to make those things I was doing better.
Right. And
to cut out, you know, the in-between like noise.
Right. That's pretty awesome. I like to like back up a little bit here, right, on the shows. And so you were born in Kentucky, real young, and then you moved to the Bay Area. What's it like growing up in the Bay?
Growing up in the Bay was, well, I don't really have anything else to like compare it to because I didn't really grow up anywhere else. Right. But, you know, growing up in the Bay was fun. I think you learn how to get a little scrappy, you know, being from the Bay a lot. And there's like, you know, definitely like an in-depth like culture to growing up in the Bay. And I grew up in a more like rural, like sort of like farm town, really.
Right.
You know, and it was pretty chill. There was nothing really exciting about growing up where I did, but
not a lot to do. Like growing up as a youngster, like metropolitan cities like you.
No, we like pretty much like brought kegs to farms, like and like hung out in like weird fields and like did weird shit, like
beer bong funnels and shit.
Yeah,
you're like that's what we was doing.
We did all the things we probably weren't supposed to be doing on other people's land.
When did you first get introduced to weed? What age are you?
I don't remember like exactly like how old I was. It was probably like I was like around 20. 21, okay, somewhere in that region. When I was in school, I actually went to continuation school. I didn't like graduate high school because I was like,
I did too. We're alumni.
I decided that like one day I was just like never going to go to school ever again. And I got in really big trouble. I got like grounded for like months over it. And like, it was just really hard to catch up after that. And I ended up going to continuation and then actually like graduating a year early.
Okay.
So that was like pretty cool. But I started going to college and I was like, you know, I was just trying to get my shit together as like a young kid.
Right.
I went to pharmacy school, actually. Like I have a pharm degree. And I worked in a pharmacy for a little while and I smoked weed at that point.
Was that your first job in a pharmacy?
I know my first job was not in a pharmacy. Like,
what was your first job then? I got to hear about that. What's the first job?
My first job, I worked at a Burger King, actually, and I got fired for giving cheeseburgers to homeless people.
That is so Patti. Oh, that's funny. Oh, that is funny. That's good.
Yeah, you know, it just didn't make sense. They had this expiration time on them and they had to like throw them away. Right. And so like, it was just like, why not give it to the guy? Like I wanted to save his dignity of like diving through our dumpster. Right. You know, I just didn't like it. And so that was apparently a big Burger King no, you know, like you can't do that. So like I got fired and then.
Did it make the paper? Were you like the burglar?
No, my friends would come in for like free burgers. Like it probably wasn't the best like employee apparently, like looking back on it. But, you know, and it's actually pretty funny, like where you look at like those times frame in your life and like how they develop and like move into like other things. Right. And so like from there, I ended up getting like a EMT license. I worked as an EMT for a while. Wow. And I got a job as a lifeguard. I worked as a lifeguard. Okay. And so I did that for many years. And that was a little bit like, let me just take that back. When you worked at Burger King, like I was 14 years old. Like that was like when your parents were like, you can go to work.
Yeah, that was like a work permit job.
Yeah, like you could get like a work permit job. And so like after that, I was like 16, 17 years old. I worked as a lifeguard for a long time. And I developed a strong sense of like medical background, but I ended up going into pharmacy. And I worked at a pharmacy for a while, and I saw a lot of things that were just, you start someone out who hurts their leg on a prescription that is like, like maybe a Vicodin or like a Norco, and then it's like they're leveling up. All of a sudden, they're on opioids. There's different like triplicates being written. There's all kinds of like insurance bullshit that happens. Like these people are coming in paying an arm and a leg, but like if you would have just asked the cash price for it, like it would have been like 3 times cheaper kind of thing.
Yeah.
At that time I was just like pivoting. I wanted a different job, and I did smoke weed. And I applied at a hospital. And I thought I did the whole golden seal routine. I was flushed it all out.
Man, that
like,
shit don't work.
Drank a lot of water.
That shit did not work.
It did not work. But I applied, for this hospital. My friend was hooking me up with this dope job, like reading telemonitors in a hospital. And they called me and they said, we're going to give you one more chance to come back and do this drug test.
Wow.
Because it came out too clean. There's like no creatine in my urine,
They're like, this urine was from a robot.
Yeah, pretty much. And so I went back, and this time they were like going to do a no-failed, hair sample, like instead of like
hard to beat.
The urine test. And, I failed it. And so, I was feeling kind of like shitty about myself for like a minute, and
I mean, you were racking up quite the track record. First is you got fired from Burger King for giving homeless people burgers, and now you fail the drug test on the very like.
You're a total loser, total like degenerate. Like what was he doing with my life? After that, I ended up. I was talking to my brother actually, and this is so funny that you're saying that. You're like laughing about it because like I have a younger brother, and he had a friend over, and they were like also laughing at me. And and then my brother's friend says, well, my uncle and my aunt, they own a dispensary in Oakland. And I was like, I'm not going to work at a dispensary, you're out of your mind.
Right.
And, like a little bit of time had passed, and he's like, I actually talked to my uncle about you, and like they really like want you to come in and like check this out. And so I was like, all right, so this is like the year 1999.
This is one of the very first dispensaries in 99 for sure.
It was definitely.
That's like Dennis Perrone collective.
Yeah, Dennis Perrone was around all the time back then. So actually it was during like the whole Oaksterdam period.
Okay.
I went in and I like went to this place. It was on 19th and Telegraph. Back then it was right across the street from the Fox Theater. And I walked in. There's this dude like dancing on his desk to like salsa. There's like people smoking weed everywhere. And it was like a scene,
Whoa.
And I walked in and, I was introduced to the owners, and they took me around. They took me on a tour, and like everybody was like really, really cool. They were super nice. And I noticed like certain things like walking around the dispensary, and they sit me down upstairs and they're like, so like, what would you like change different around here? And I'm like,
on your first day?
It was just an interview.
Right.
I was like, who the fuck am I to tell you how to like run your business around here? Like I don't know how y'all do stuff. But I'm a very truthful person. And so I just started telling them what I thought they should do different. And it was little things. Like I saw people like weighing pounds of weed out, but they weren't wearing gloves.
Right.
They weren't wearing like certain like PPE, like that, you need a PPE for weed is kind of silly. But, like washing your hands, like wearing gloves, maybe put on a hairnet or something, like make it a little more on the medical side. And they had them in these like weird containers. And I just told them what I thought they could do to bring a little more of a medical field, or a feel to the look and what they were doing in there. They referred to it a lot as like medicine. This is medicine. This is medicine, and it wasn't really called weed. Everybody really like this was our medicine, and there was a lot of there was a lot of emphasis around that. I'll say
right.
And so I thought, well, if you're calling it medicine, like why don't you put it in prescription jars?
Right.
And so we started using my, later on, basically I was hired on the spot, which is weird. I started the very next day. And, we started.
That was a short process.
It was apparently like, they believed in me.
Right.
And that was really cool. And so we started using like my pharmacy license to order like prescription jars.
Right. Because you couldn't just order those anywhere back then.
No, like it was kind of like a thing. You just couldn't, you had to have like all these licenses and stuff. Then the next thing that we wanted to do to sort of level up is because at this time, as you know, like there was a lot of like heat coming around with people. Like if you were driving around in your car, you had like weed on you. Like this was a problem outside of, the dispensary. I came up with the idea, why don't we put the penal section codes for Prep 215 on the prescription labels? And like we started doing that. And it was just to bring a little more like legitimacy and more of a medical feel that was like a little more professional back then.
For sure. That was innovative back then.
Yeah, I innovated the shit out that because then it started like catching on. It started going to like all the other, but see, like so there's a little timepiece between that too. It's like this was the old Oaksterdam period,
right?
So like next door to us was like the Dragonfly, the Third Floor, Bulldog. Right. Like there was like it was
a mecca of like a can of weed. It was like a mecca of weed right there.
It was really fucking fun. Like it was a really cool time in history. And a lot of raids happened and a lot of people shut down and left. And the city allowed 3 dispensaries back then. And one of them was Care that I worked at. It was owned by a lady named Stacy Petrus. She was very compassionate. She taught me a lot. She was really a very nice person. And then the other one was...
Did she have a big impact on you when you were younger?
She did have a big impact on me. Like, she didn't, like, just say compassion. She showed me what compassion really meant and what it really looked like to really have compassion for other people and the sacrifice that she had made to bring legalization to the market. I saw her pick homeless people up off the street and give them a job. And like, we paid for, this guy, we called him Fast Eddie back in the day. Like Fast Eddie was this homeless guy who was like hanging out on the side of our building. And, Stacy and I had went out there one day and we just, we asked him like, what's your story? Like, are you okay? Like, do you need food? Do you need anything? And it was, we ended up like paying for like one of those pay by the hour type like motels. We hooked him up for like a month, got him cleaned up, gave him a job, and turned out he was a veteran. And we ended up getting him in contact back with his daughter, and he ended up like getting his whole life back. And so it's like
you guys changed his life.
It's just sometimes all you got to do is just give a handout to someone,
right? Or just listen for a second.
Yeah. And so she really did like teach me compassion, and she showed me a lot about the business. Like she was very cool. And she herself, she had a lot of health issues. She had like a calcified pancreas. So she was like in and out of the hospital all the time.
Was cannabis part of her regimen too, or did?
Oh yeah, fuck yeah. They smoked more weed than anybody I'd ever seen. Like, and it wasn't just like any joint. See, like back then, like a hash oil joint was like $60.
Right.
And it was not like I'm sure there was a shit ton of residual solvents in it.
For sure there was.
So there was a lot of shit going on back then, but
people were still blowing
they were
themselves
like a
up
pack a day. I think we at one point, like all of us employees like kind of sat down and we're like, dude, they smoke $5,000 a day in joints, And I'm like, there's so many joints, like,
Yeah.
But so the city at that point in time, they narrowed it down to 3.
Right.
There was Care. There was Purple Heart.
Purple Heart, yeah.
And then the third one actually back then was the old West Grand Club. That guy ended up getting like arrested and like selling some sort of some like substance out the back door.
Right.
And it ended up later becoming Bloom. But the third one actually that like, or the fourth one that like had rolled in after that was Harborside.
Oh yeah.
And Steve
in
D'Angelo,
05, right?
yeah. So like Steve D'Angelo actually like, now I'm going to feel really old when I say this, but like he actually used to be my vendor. Like he was our vendor. Like he used to sell these products called Shiva crystals and Ganesh wafers. Like, and so like, it's so weird because this was even pre-Harborside period, you know? So yeah, it's been a while.
That's pretty cool. That's some history right there for sure. Ganesh wafers.
Yeah, it was just like cold water hash and these little packages, and he had like a cute little elephant stamp on them. Like they were definitely not the kind of packaging that we paid for today.
So he was Brandon back in the day.
He was Brandon back in the day. Okay. He was. He definitely
Shout out Steve. Okay, Steve, let me know. Let me know something.
And Shiva crystals was just like keef in like a little tube.
Even in our dispensary, our extract like section was super slim. We had some like we had hash oil, we had cold water hash.
It was an 8 to 10 year felony for manufacturing charges back then.
And then like you said, like the people that actually could make good hash and good hash oil and stuff like that, like was few and far between. You would get a lot of shit with
highly
solvent.
Sought after. I know you got paid more than I did. So like, yeah.
Man. Oh yeah. And man, it was like, it was a thing, but it did. I didn't realize what it was going to turn into. I didn't realize like solvents and like oils and all the extracts were
the
like
refining process.
Man, it was like if I would have going into prison and then coming out of prison and like going through that time warp, like of missing 15 years of like all the innovation and stuff, because like even vapes, like my idea of vaping before I went to prison was like I had like this idea of like, oh, you'd have weed, you would have like real weed, like flower in like, you know, some type of tube, and you would like vape it kind of like, you know, remember how like the volcano was?
Yeah, I totally remember. I still think that the volcano is dope. It was like ahead of its time. It was good for people's lungs. It was super ahead of its time.
And then the weed would still be in there though afterwards. And it would just be like brown
looking. Yeah.
It smelled like popcorn kind of.
Yeah, it was creepy.
Yeah, it was super creepy. And then people would still smoke that sometimes in my neighborhood. They'd be like, yeah, here, you could have that.
Yeah,
and people would be like,
sad.
Nothing in it.
Nobody should have ever gave that away.
No, that was sad. But no, that was my idea. But the extract game was like, it changed a lot. But it was
a lot of money back then, you know, and this is like, I spent so many years at the dispensary. Like I started out as like someone, I guess, who just like kind of helped them like shape away.
I mean, you came in on your interview already changing shit in there.
Yeah, I don't know, like bossy sometimes, but like, you know, I worked as a bud tender for years.
Nice.
And I
bet
really,
you were a good bud tender.
Yeah, I mean, I think guys try to hit on me a lot, though. I mean, so, like,
of course,
it was kind of weird because, like, sometimes, like, you really want to help people, and then you're just like, okay, yeah, like, no, like, I'm sorry, I'm like,
yeah, I'm
not gonna give you my phone number or something.
I just sell weed here, like,
and also because it was like a landline.
But that was like that. A really pretty female selling weed in '99 was kind of an anomaly. Like, you weren't like there. It wasn't like when you walk into a dispensary now, you see predominantly like young, pretty girls.
Yeah, it's definitely changed. I think there wasn't really like a consensus on the way like someone looked back then.
Right.
I think it was really more about like knowledge and just the fact that you were willing, you know, we didn't, in today, you get up and you go to work. Like when I was getting up and going to work, I didn't know if I was going to jail every day. So it was definitely like
super different time.
A totally different time period. And there's a lot more risk involved. You know, and I worked there for years, and this is right about the time like where the city of Oakland.
Did that ever cross your mind when you were like initially getting the job? Like, man, I don't know if I want to do this because this is kind of sketch a little bit.
You know, it's kind of weird, but like, no, like it didn't really like.
I already dumped Burger King. I already effed the other job. What? I mean, hell, who cares?
No, I mean, I definitely knew that there was a risk.
Right.
It like the risk was there. Looking back on it, like I probably should have been like tripping off of it like a little more than we did. Like, but
you're like, I should have been scared.
I should have been more scared, but it was also like, again, it was a different time period.
Right.
We were banking at banks. I won't say the name, but we banked at a bank.
Yes,
they knew what we were doing.
Yep.
I don't know like how to like describe it really, other than the community loved us and they wanted us there. So like, the only people that were really like kind of getting robbed back then was like if someone was waiting in their car to follow a vendor home.
Right.
They were getting like robbed at home. They weren't getting robbed at the store, and the store never got robbed because they wanted us to stay open. Like we were the community plug. Like
Oakland was different too back then.
Oakland was fucking great back then.
Right.
Like Oakland was really like they had a very strong sense of
revitalization
community.
of Oakland back then. It was an awesome time actually.
A lot of people don't really realize, that like ground zero of cannabis really was Oakland. Like
100%.
They did. And I have to like really give a shout out to Jeff Jones at this moment.
Yes.
Because like Oakland,
his name was signed on the bottom of my OCBC card. My very first OCBC card in like
what number
05.
What number were you?
Man, I can't remember. I haven't seen that thing in so long.
I was 23,500. But yeah, like so, and it's actually like funny because like Richard Lee and my boss, and they were like card number 1, 2, 3. Like
right. So I definitely wasn't there.
It was really like it's totally a beautiful time period.
Right.
But Oakland cannabis wouldn't be what it is without Jeff Jones and the OCBC.
Wouldn't. Shout out Jeff Jones.
Yeah, and shout out Nurse Laura because it was all these years later. So what happened was the city started changing their regulations into like trying to prevent people from coming twice a day, like so they would stop the reselling on the street.
Right, right.
And so like we could only have one patient a day come in and purchase. If you had already purchased, you can't come back.
Right.
So there was like this new change that was like happening, and there was no system in place back then to like make sure you were following those city like guidelines. Right.
They just expected
so
you
I just
to follow
said like, fuck it. Like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to bud tend anymore. I'm going to like pull up this desk and I'm going to put together all these binders because I was like really organized. And I put together like all these binders, like, like tabs for the alphabet for the name, and then your card number. So like we could look you up. And then it was just like, so we had like this like archaic system.
Archaic spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's like this giant thing. And it's actually, this is really cool. So like I would have to call Nurse Laura at the OCBC all the time to like, like see if this recommendation is real. Was it a fake doctor's prescription?
Right.
Like we were really trying to follow the rules.
Right.
And so Nurse Laura was dope. And she's actually who inspired me to become a nurse.
Okay.
And so like I became a nurse later. But like going back to the whole system is like, this is how old this is. I'm going to tell my age here. So like we had a patient one day come in and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I got to like find your name. I'm sorry. Like there's a line for me, And I was like, I got to like make sure you never, and he was just like, "I'm going to come back tomorrow and we're going to like go over some stuff." And I was like, all right. So like this dude, Ethan, who was like, I learned later is like MIT student. He was like hella smart.
He's like a super card counter.
Windows 97.
He was one of the guys that was like breaking the casinos with it. With the blackjack
he was like a really smart guy. And so he got on this computer and he built us a program like back then to where like if I put in a card number, it would like red X or green check. Like if they had already been there that day.
That was state of the art back then.
Yeah, it was like running on Windows 97.
Holy
like
shit.
it was, this is like a fucking game changer.
Super game changer.
So like, I invented the intake system, which is also kind of weird. Like, so just like going back
to like
a
lot of those systems you're talking about, we definitely borrowed at our dispensary. I didn't have, we didn't have that cool of a system for our check-in. Like our receptionist still had to call the doctor's office.
A lot of people did at that time. Like it was really how to like innovate and change and make things better.
That's awesome.
So the evolution of cannabis to watch like from my binder all the way to like where we are now is like it's pretty spectacular.
That binder should be in like a museum somewhere.
Yeah, it probably isn't, but like
probably isn't.
It's probably a lot of patient data in there. We can't do that.
Probably in a DEA office. I mean, I didn't mean that.
But it was really a fun time, and somebody I really if we're gonna like talk about someone who really influenced me throughout like the cannabis and my career, was not just Stacy, but it was this guy Avery Benhop, and I loved him like a dad, and I didn't have a dad. That was the other thing too, is like, I'll go back and like talk about it. We can elaborate more on it.
Sure.
But, I grew up with my dad in prison.
Okay.
So my dad went to prison when I was like 8 months old. So that's why my family like moved me from Kentucky to California. And I basically was like kind of like hidden away. Like they didn't want my dad to know where I was, but he did 25 years in prison.
Wow.
And
that's a long time.
So like I didn't really have a dad,
That's tough childhood.
I was raised by my mom. She's a single mom. She's like tough as fucking nails.
Right.
My grandma was like an undercover narcotics agent, which was also like weird in that time period. But she also smoked hella weed. So I don't know. Like it was like this whole...
a lot of juxtapositions going on.
Well, like a lot weird of things going on. Just mind your own business and keep the blinders on, But like, I was raised by a single parent. My mom, she's a really hard worker. And so like Avery kind of like took me under his wing.
Right.
And he taught me everything that I know.
Where did
about
you
this
initially
industry.
Link up with him at
so
the dispensary?
Avery was my manager at the dispensary. So like Stacy was the owner, but she didn't come in all the time. She had a lot of health issues. Mm-hmm. And so Avery was running the dispensary, and he just like kind of like took me under his wing and was just like, anybody ever tried to like mess with me? Like I remember Avery one time he like jumped out of like this window that like overlooked the bar because some dude was like being stupid, and like Avery's crazy. He was also a base jumper, so he was like, he had like this adrenaline thing going on.
Right.
But he like jumped out this window and just like picked this guy up and like threw him out the door and closed the door and goes, "Have a good day." Like
you're like, yeah,
don't come back. So throughout the years.
So how would you say he influenced you? Like what was the biggest impact that what did you learn the most from Avery?
How to hold my ground. How to like, just the business too, like buying, selling, like the quality of everything. He was like originally one of our buyers at the club.
Right.
So it was really just about like making money. And he was a sort of like a pioneer of his time because he was like also a vendor. So he was growing and then going around to like all the different dispensaries, and he was, selling his product like Soma, Blue Dot, like the Silver Star, like all these old school like genetics.
That Blue Dot was heat.
It really was, though.
That was for that time. That was heat.
Yeah, it was like right after the whole like Granddaddy Purple like hype. Then he had like the Blue Dot and the Soma. Yeah. So like Avery just taught me everything, like how to like run the club, pretty much. Speaking on that, and like trying to like speak in both time frames of like today and back then. Avery was arrested for taking like, I think he had like 40 something units in his car. Like he was arrested for taking cannabis in, to the medical shops back then. This is a couple years like later, but and there was dispensaries like Charlie that was at Divinity Tree in San Francisco. He was like vouching, like, because when you got pulled over, like there was a little bit of a gray zone area to where if it was going into a medical dispensary and they could verify it, you maybe, depending on what city and what cop you got, like get off on.
Right. Not Modesto, it didn't matter. But in Oakland, there was a little bit.
There's a little leeway, and I know that there was 2 stops scheduled for Avery that day. One was Harborside and one was Divinity Tree.
Okay.
And he ended up doing 7 years in Lompoc. So he didn't get his house cut rated. It, ruined his family. He was a dad, like his daughter's like great, and he was just really doing. This is a dude who was like building houses for Habitat and Humanity in different countries. Like he would take his money, and he was like he was one of the best people I've ever met.
Right. And you're saying one of the dispensaries in that situation must not have vouched for him.
They did not. I don't believe, no. And I know that actually because when Avery got out of prison, I gave him a job. He helped me build Cana. We can talk about that. But like, he got out and he was just like, man, like everyone thinks Steve D'Angelo invented weed or something. Like, this is crazy. Like, I just fucking did 7 years. And it's not to like throw anybody under the bus. I'm not here to like throw people under the bus. Steve built something great. There was hired a lot of people from CARE to get it started. And there was a lot of like stuff going on back then when Harborside first started. But, there was vendors that vouched for people and there was vendors that didn't. Ouch.
That like, I don't know how a dispensary operator in that situation would not vouch for a vendor. And like, listen, I don't know details of situations. I don't know who was it. Like, I don't know any of that. Right.
Yeah. A lot of that is like vague situation.
Right. But like, and like I said, in Modesto, they wouldn't have gave a fuck. I could have walked out there and said it was my brother and he was growing for me and showed our recommendation, they would have still locked him up. But if there was a situation where I could have came out and said, oh yeah, that's our vendor, I would have did it even if it wasn't our vendor. To keep it real, that's just the type of dude I am. But not to put anybody else under the bus either. But in situations like that back in the day, like people have to understand, like it's not what it was today.
Introducing the feds and vouching for somebody, maybe it was something that whoever that dispensary owner was didn't want to do.
Right.
I don't know, and I can't speak for somebody else, and and I don't want to like say bad things about other operators, but it definitely happened. He wasn't vouched for. Right. There's he did 7 years for it. And
Lompoc, it was a rough spot too. I did find in Lompoc. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like it's a lot tamer now, fellas. Listen, I know it's a lot tamer now. Don't But back in the day, Lompoc was kind of rolling, and so 7 years in Lompoc was a rough bit. What happens when you go? So you transfer out of working with the dispensary, and then what do you do afterwards?
I went to nursing school. Well, and actually, like, I went to nursing school, and also I went to this institute for clairvoyant people, like, and I learned meditation and how to work with energy, and I just got really heavily into like the more metaphysics and just like how to create for yourself and to just like kind of deprogram yourself from all the shit we're programmed about in life and just kind of learn like what it's like to be like happy in my own body and what that looks like and how to like deal with other people's bullshit like without like a reaction to it.
Have you read the 4 Agreements?
Yes, I read the 4 Agreements.
Good, right?
Yeah, it's great.
So when you went to school for clairvoyance, I mean, first of all, that sounds like are you like an ex-woman? Do you have some special power? I need to know right now. You have to disclose special powers.
A special power of like creation. Like I feel like I can just think of something and I can create it. Like I'm a good creator.
Okay.
Yeah, like that's my superpower.
Well, that's just the truth, and now you're giving up game right now. Really, listen.
It's okay. It's game that everybody should have.
They should know it. You're right.
Everybody should know how capable they are at creating.
They are creators.
People are very capable, and I think a lot of people don't really believe in themselves, and that's something. That's the reason why I wrote a book. Like I just wrote a book, and like I talk about that in about like how capable you really are.
Right. I want to talk about your book, but let's hold up. I want to keep everybody with us here. So. You go into nursing, you become an RN.
Well, yeah. So like I went all the way to school, but I didn't actually work as an RN.
Okay.
I worked as a nurse as an LVN for a while. Okay. And then I worked in a surgery center. So like I went to nursing school and I ended up getting a job in an OR.
Oh.
And I worked with this anesthesiologist on the surgery case, and he was like a young doctor, young anesthesiologist, and like
so blood and shit don't fuck you up at all.
Oh no.
You can see anything.
Yeah, and actually, like that's probably my superpower is I can stay calm through fucking anything.
Wow.
Like I stayed calm through like federal raids. Like when the dispensary was like getting raided a long time ago. Like I remember like seeing the black cars pull up,
the black bourbons.
Yeah, like and a couple like town car looking things. And the security is like radio because Avery's gone now. Avery left to go actually run Harborside for Steve when it first opened up.
Okay.
So like Avery was over at Harborside. I stepped up and just started running like the whole kit and caboodle over there.
Okay.
And the security radios up to me. I'm in my office and they're like, the feds are here.
Wow.
And
that's a hell of a radio message.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was a hell. So like, I don't know what it is about me, but I can just stay really calm. So I like just calmly went and shut all the doors, all the safes, put all the money away.
Hide the money,
put it like all away. And what's fucking weird is I started folding my sweater. Like I was like folding my sweater. And
let me get my stuff ready.
Let me get my stuff ready to go to jail. And I thought, okay, well, today's the day.
Don't want it wrinkled.
Today's the day we're going to jail,
Right.
And I just didn't want it to like have too much like pushback, so I was just like, let them in. Just like, they're gonna come in anyways. Like, let them in.
Yeah, you ain't keeping them out there.
Yeah, and so like they came up, they looked around, security brought them up. They came into the office, and they introduced themselves, who they are, showed badges, and asked if they can like walk around the dispensary. And I said, yeah, like, wow, let's do it.
These are really polite feds.
They were actually pretty polite. They weren't like kicking down doors and being assholes, you know.
Bay Area feds, man. That's what's up. Shout out to the Bay Area. No, I'm just playing. I was almost going to do
Shout out to the Oakland ones. Yeah, by this time we had moved off. Also, it's like worth mentioning. So like there was a time period where the city of Oakland wanted to do like the downtown city project. They wanted to renovate the Fox Theater. So they had asked us to move. So we had moved.
People were like bombing it out. Like it was like the Fox Theater had some shit going on in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of homeless people like in there like all the time, like all the time. And so they asked us to move. And so we moved to 705 Broadway where the Have a Heart is currently at right now in Oakland, like a long time ago. So we took that building over. And so that means we were now right across the street from Oakland PD. And they were curious about us for sure, but we had like a very transparent, like open door policy, like come in, check it out. Like we didn't feel like we're doing anything that we're ashamed of.
Sure.
This is like, you know, we're trying to bring legitimacy, like these people are sick. And there really was like our patient base was really sick people.
Right.
And so, you know, we were just trying to bring legitimacy. And so, like, I don't know, somewhere in there's probably like some phone calls that happened, like, you know, go check these guys out or something, you know, but they were not rude. They were very, as a matter of fact, like, we're going to look around this facility. And I asked them, you know, do you have a warrant? And they said, no, but we can get one. And I said, why don't you don't have to go that route? Like, we'll just like show you through everything. So like at that point, I knew you can't open safes, you can't open doors. Like there's certain things you can do. I can give you the aesthetic tour of like what we're doing.
Spin in and out.
Yeah. And so we did, and you know, they tipped their hats and just said, you know, this is all right, you know, like, and we never got rolled on ever again after that, which was, we feel very fortunate for that because people like you did. And
so they just totally left you guys alone after that. Wow, that's impressive.
They did.
Wow. Yeah. Oakland wasn't really supportive, like, of the feds coming in and messing with like the state legal shops.
Yeah, no, they weren't. And like, you know, like going back to like Steve D'Angelo's, like, you know, he was really like fighting the feds for like a while. He like really put out a pretty big case, and Oakland backed him on that case.
I read it from prison. I remember reading about it from prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was impressive.
So it was just, it seems like a lifetime, like a different lifetime ago.
It does, doesn't it?
It does. It seems like a very long time ago. But the transition, you know, from there is like, I left for a while, and then I worked in the OR with that doctor, the anesthesiologist. And he was like, what did you do before you started working here? Because like, I got to scrub into an OR, which means like my arms are like open, you know, like I got to like show all my tattoos and stuff to like scrub in. And they're like, I'm the only like super heavily tatted nurse walking around this place. And
they're like, damn, this nurse is thugged out.
Yeah. Like, so they used to like tease me. They're like, what did you do before you started working here? And
I'm like, I was in the joint.
Yeah, I didn't say anything. I was like, none of your business, you know, like mind your own business. Right. And then so like we started to build like a fun relationship. And then they was like, no, really, like I really need to know like what you did before you started working here. I'm like, I worked in a dispensary. And he's like, shut the front door. I did my thesis in med school on medical marijuana. And I'm like, it's not the same thing, bro. Don't try to be cool right now. You're not cool. And, you know, we ended up like building this cool relationship. And he eventually, it took about like a year. And he was just like, how about you want to go open another store? I'll give you all the money.
Wow.
And I was like, no, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't really want to do that. Right. And so like it took a while to convince. And so then it was just like I was calling the nursing board. At the time I was like, going back to school for my nurse practitioner license. So it was like, I really wanted to see like what my liability was with like holding so many licenses at this point.
Right.
And they were like, as long as you don't have a felony, we don't really care.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, like, so he's like, see, now you have to do it. Cause there's like, you know, there's like, you could do it. There's no less risk, you know?
Right.
That's how it all started originally was he ended up investing, but then he ended up like backing out and he kind of like went away. He's a Muslim doctor, and his wife didn't really like think that it
didn't
was like,
approve of the old devil's lettuce.
Yeah, no, they didn't. And so it was okay. He left. He went on his way. But at this point in time, like we had already gotten so deep into like, this is before Prop 64 came out. So like I had spent like about a year and a half trying to find like that needle in a haystack in a green zone, you know,
right.
Like there was like the rigs weren't out, like the city rules were changing. It was like, there was so much like all over the place. You had to find
like the in-between city and county land.
And then once you found that and you feel glorious about it, then you got to find out if the landlord's going to be acceptable to the usage. Right. So that was just like, you know, it was cool, but it wasn't cool. And it took a long time to be able to like find a building to be able to like open a retail store in.
So you find a building, open a retail store, and this is KANNA
Oakland. Yeah.
Right. And you run it successfully for how long?
No. So like what happened with Oakland Cana is a whole different ball game.
What happened?
So it was originally like 3 storefronts that were like an old nail salon and like it was a tattoo shop and then like a burger place or something like on the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And my job now was to like excavate all of that. And then as we were going through like the production of Oakland Cana, we ended up like at one point you could just stand in the dirt and there was no like you just on the sidewalk. Like the whole front of the building had to come down. We had to like do new footings. Like we had to do all this shit. And this enters like Avery, who had just gotten out of prison in Lompoc.
Just got out the joint.
Avery out the joint came to me and he was looking for a job.
Okay.
And so like I employed Avery, and Avery's brother was an architect.
You were the first social equity employment program.
Yeah. And actually one of the first 4 permits to successfully like incubate 7 groups. So,
okay.
So like on top of it, so like Avery gets out of prison. And I find out his brother is an architect, and it just like came together. Like his brother from Hawaii like flew out. We rented a spot that was like 75 feet away from the store, and Avery and his brother built the entire store, like every footing, like every beam, the floor, the plans,
Holy
like
shit.
The doors, like the whole everything was built by Avery when he got out of prison.
Wow.
We got the whole thing like pretty much like turnkey, like built out. We were like, I was doing like business pitches, like standing in a room full of like really rich people, just being like, I need money to like pull this project off. Like, you know,
oh man.
Yeah. And a lot of it had to do around the social equity groups. Cause like we had incubated like 7 people. And it was basically like me asking for an investor to like give me money that was never going to be paid back, but it was for a good cause. So
that's
like
a tough sell right there.
It was a real fucking tough sell. Like it was such a tough sell. And somehow by the grace of God, I pulled this off. I pulled
the tough sell off.
I pulled the tough sell off. Like, and it ended up being with like the landlord of the building. And he ended up partnering the group at that point in time. Wow. And we had another person who was in the group, but they caused like really a lot of chaos. Like,
so you said it wasn't successful. So what happened?
So it was very successful in the fact that like we got a turnkey, but like during this whole build out process, I was approached by Acreage Holdings. And so Acreage Holdings had an impressive board, by the way. Let me tell you a little bit about Acreage Holdings.
Who's on the board of Acreage Holdings?
So, like, Acreage Holdings was Senator and Congressman Speaker of the House Republican John Bonner.
Okay.
Former IBM CFO Doug Main. Mm-hmm. And then there was, like, the previous Brian, I forget his last name. He was the previous Prime Minister of Canada. Right. So like, here's this impressive board that like wants to come up and they want to like buy the first nurse-owned and operated dispensary to ever exist. And they offered me $11.5 million for it.
Before you even opened?
It was turnkey. It was like right about ready to go. It was turnkey. And
show me where to sign?
Actually, no, I went home and cried.
Why?
I went home and cried because it was like
you had put so much blood, sweat, and tears into this spot,
I had to pivot so many times to get where we were finally at this destination, you know.
And then somebody was just going to give you millions and take it away from you.
They were going to give me millions of dollars and take it away. But I was actually really sad about it. I didn't want to sell it originally. And then there was a lot of like inner beef that was sort of going on with like another partner. Like he wanted out because he was like, he got like federal loans for like building buildings. And like we had some exchanges because like when we were like trying to raise money, like I had a member on my board ask me to sleep with a dude for investment money.
Damn.
Yeah, it was really fucked up. And I was like,
this is definitely pre-Me Too movement.
Yes, pre-Me Too movement. And, you know, he started like actually making me feel bad. He would be he would elaborate on like, well, I know girls that would do a lot more for like a lot less.
Straight scumbag.
He offered me his Bentley. Like, and I was just like, dude, have that girl do it then. Right. Like, go, like, let's bring her along. Like, I'm not going to do that, you know? So like, there was a lot of like me trying to be like the only female in the company, the founder, the visionary, like bumping up against the people with money.
A bunch of male execs that aren't used to dealing with females on that level.
Yeah, it was just really hard for me, and I had to make that decision of like putting my own oxygen mask on first and like take care of myself and my kids.
Right.
So I did. We ended up like selling. I don't know why like they didn't operate as the botanist under Acreage. I think some of that had to do with like they didn't have the right people, like the right feet on the ground. They were from New York, and it just didn't work out. And they ended up selling it to the guy that owns it now.
I think that's a mistake of a lot of companies when they buy another company and they think it's going to do well or it is doing well, to not keep some of like the staff on. Of the reason why you're buying,
or
like a
even just
company,
like ask like about the operations, really, like because they knew that the store wasn't open when we bought it. That was something that they actually liked about it. They wanted like a clean slate corporation, like they could like take care of their own taxes and never operate. It was like less liability.
They
for
didn't
them.
know much about Oakland then.
Yeah, well, that was like one of the things I was saying. Was like, if you think like your big corporate cannabis is going to come in here and like you're going to do well in Oakland like this, I think you should keep some soldiers on the ground over here. But like they didn't heed that warning, and they hired some people like, and I don't know, I guess they could just never get it open. Maybe there was internal stuff I don't know about, but I was paid to leave, and that's what I did. I left.
You're like happily, with my M's.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was very happy about that, and so but actually, like simultaneously. That was I got paid out from the Acreage deal in like 2019, but in 2018.
What do you get? What do you buy with your payout? What's the first big thing you buy with your payout?
I bought a house cash. Like I bought my own house, like by myself.
Ooh, that's smart.
Yeah. And then I ended up like
so you didn't
fixing
go get, like,
it up
a diamond
and I flipped
necklace
it.
and a grill or anything?
No.
You're not? Okay.
No. Like I bought a house and it was pretty fun.
Why are you being so smart with your money?
Yeah, it's silly me. Like I make a lot of money in real estate now. Like, but it's just less risk, and like that was something we were talking about earlier. Is like, a lot of people out here are talking about like get the bag, and I was like, well, my bag came through the SEC,
right?
So like my bag came through the bank.
Wire bag. Check my wire. Hold up, it's there.
Actually, I had gotten wire transferred so much money, I was afraid to go to the bank because I thought they were gonna like think I was
grab
bad.
you or something.
Yeah, like,
they're like, this is a
I would
drug
like
lord.
log in and look and be like, oh shit, it's still there. The next day, it's gonna be gone. I know it's gonna be a freeze on it. Something's gonna happen.
God, that's the legacy mentality, right?
Yeah, it's like okay, it's still
something
there.
could always happen to my money.
I better put it into something before it's all gone.
God,
yeah.
That's so true too.
Yeah.
So when do you get into Lemonnade?
In 2018, while we were building Cana and we had this public acquisition on the table, one of the little strings that they were telling me is like, if you sign off on this deal, then you could go run Antioch, which is closer to your house. And I was like, okay, that's
kind of enticing.
That's an enticing deal.
Right.
And so we worked and we built Antioch Lemonnade simultaneously, like side by side on the two projects. Like it was really weird to do like a private.
You were fucking grinding.
Yeah, like I was really hustling like day and night. Like my phone would ring at like 6 a.m. and I was taking calls to like 1 p.m. I was like up all night making spreadsheets for investors, like just like, and then also like figuring out the regs because a lot of the stuff wasn't like being set in stone at that time. And it was just a lot of maneuvering, a lot of pivoting to get like to just get the projects done.
Lemonnade is not your local mom and pop dispensary. Now you're going into the cookies brand, the big corporations. Now it's a different situation, right?
It was definitely a different situation on so many other levels.
You're dealing with the corporate people now.
Yeah, or so we thought. And so let's just make the distinction right now, because I know that there's a lot of things that like people can and can't talk about when it's pertaining to like cookies,
right?
And another group. But a lot of people don't know that like Bernard doesn't own a lot of these stores. Right. There are licensing agreements, and there's another group behind.
People will roast him like about like
it's
product
unfair.
choices and
unfair.
menu choices, and that they don't understand like that this is a licensing deal, and he doesn't get to dictate what goes in. Like I know,
right?
I get
no. Like the distribution's not controlled in the deals. Like It's our money, our startup capital, like my shares, my company. And, we paid to use the name.
Right.
Which actually is also like kind of cool because like in this whole, like there's like a little bit of an intermix of like how I was able to get all the equity space in Oakland. Because, I was like pitching to those investors, right? Mm-hmm. And it was like a bad look to take an investor to like 77th and Holly in the hood with a guy on the roof with like a shotgun.
Right. Looking like you're going into Nino Brown's building.
So like there was like, so we needed to like move. Like we needed to like get a safe space for like the equity groups. And so I reached out to like Martin Kaufman and shout out Martin. He's a very classy, very, very, very nice guy. I called him up and says, I need 20,000 square feet. And, he has Bloom Oakland. And I'm like now the new competing dispensary, like on the block. And so like he was so classy enough to like let me have 20,000.
That is a classy move.
It was very classy. And it was actually pretty funny because like when I was on the hunt looking for buildings, I would like call Martin, be like, can I have this building? I know you guys have it, And he'd be like, you don't have enough money, And so I'd be like, okay, hold on. I would go and like try to find more money and I'd come back and I'd be like, okay, I found like 200 grand. And he'd be like, oh, you still don't have enough money. And I'd like go back and like hunt down more money and I'd call Martin. He's like, yeah, you still don't have enough money. Like,
getting closer though.
Getting closer, but we're not getting, you can't, no, absolutely not. And so, I had to call him back again and just be like, okay, so now we have money. And now I need 20,000 square feet. And he gave it to us.
Cool.
And so like a lot of people don't know, like he's had a hand in like the whole Lemonnade thing too. So like when we had some of these deals on the table, I was definitely asking him like about the brand and, is this a good move? What do you think about it? What's your experience been like? And he had a positive things to say. But, he wasn't involved in the business deals. So like there's another group that were real estate guys actually. And they went around to like legacy operators like myself and to like other people and, put together these deals to acquire shares in our company. And they wanted a management agreement. So like I was a little tired and just kind of, like we had to build Antioch Lemonade through COVID. So there's a lot of delays, a lot of rent, a lot of setback. Like there was a lot of stuff. And so we ended up just like doing the deal with this group.
The group. Like we ended up doing a deal with this group and they came in it's
and like
a 3-letter group. We'll just say
it's a 3-letter group.
The 3-letter group.
The 3-letter group. And they were running the store and then there kind of became a point in time like where I didn't feel like things were going as the way that we had papered and discussed.
Right.
And
we shook hands on something and it ain't going down like that anymore.
Yeah. And so there was a lot of like pressure to like get the store back. And so I was able to like leverage a pretty good deal on acquiring the shares. I went to like a good buddy of mine, Mike, who was at Coastal Roots in Rio Vista. Like I had helped them get their cultivation licensed like a couple years previous. So the 3-letter group gets bought out by someone. My buddy Mike brought this other person to the table. And I ended up like making a mistake of giving this person 1% more in the company.
Oh, the crucial one.
The crucial 1% more than, but I wasn't trying to be greedy.
Right.
And it was really like on the word of like my good buddy brought this dude in and, it was still better than what was happening with the other group really at that point, or so I thought. Mm-hmm. And so this person comes in and then those two guys start fighting. Like they started like this new guy is like telling my buddy Mike, like you suck up too much air, like in the world when you talk, and like just like some like really abusive type things. And there was like a lot
fighting words.
Yeah, like it escalated to like, and then it escalated to this guy's like walking around screaming at employees. And I was told that if we did this deal with this guy, he was going to want our like big warehouse for storage for his company. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like we're not using the storage anyways. Like, I'm happy to accommodate you.
Sure.
But then like after the deal goes through, like it wasn't like a storage space. Like, no. This guy wants to like run operations in our warehouse for his business. And then he started like hiring felons and not putting them on the payroll. And I'm like, I got a DCC license right here. Like it's 7 years.
There's rules to this shit
in the making. Like you can't throw parties and take $5,000 cash and not give it, and then we had clothing line. I had contacted Cookies to develop the rights and the usage to put out the clothing line that was supposed to be specifically for the store.
Right.
And it all went to their personal, the store never saw any money of that.
Oh, wow.
And so there's a lot of self-dealing. There was a lot of things that were going on. A lot of beef started happening.
Partner from hell.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, really though. So there was this strange dichotomy going on. And then my mom got really sick, and my mom's back in Kentucky on a 15-acre farm. And I needed to find a way to get my mom home to help her out. And so
bring her out to Cali?
Yeah, I was bringing her out to Cali. And so I submitted a first right of refusal to the new partners. And I said, if you're not comfortable with me selling all my shares, I just need to sell some of my shares because I got to help my mom. Yeah. And they didn't like that very much. They got pretty pissed off about it, actually. And all of a sudden, 2 days, a couple days later, it was a very short time here. This was November of 2023. And by December, they had held a meeting as husband and wife, and they removed me as the CEO of my own company.
Oh, the 2 votes against you.
Yeah. And Mike, who was never even invited to the meeting. It was so fucked up how the whole thing happened. And so, they removed me as the CEO of my own company. And then just that really pissed me off because I'm I got 7 years up in here. This is mine. About? This is my vision. This is my work.
Yeah.
And so I filed for a litigation, and, they completely ignored the litigation, and they went and filed for receivership. And to this day, I still have never been served the receivership paperwork, and neither has Mike. They just showed up in the store one day. So they served themselves as the board and didn't even care about the shareholders in the company. And they, as an officer, anybody knows, if you're an officer of a company, I can't file my taxes because I'm not an officer anymore. I can't make the decisions that I needed to make in order to keep that store running and operable.
Sure.
And so the receiver came in, and I'm going to go ahead and say that they devalued that asset like crazy because it was making a certain amount of money. Could it have made more money? Yeah.
You're saying a tank move.
Yeah, but when I acquired the store back from that 3-letter company, there's supposed to be a certain amount of money in the bank. The money wasn't in the bank. And so what I got instead was a surprise, you've got
the 3-letter company gave you another 3 letters, IOU.
They gave me 6. They gave me 6 figures. Instead, they had a $270,000 undisclosed vendor debt that I had to clear up.
Oh, come on.
So now I'm stepping back into operations. I got 2 new partners, and I got to flip this cash. So I flipped. I don't know. By the grace of God, I flipped. A negative 270 vendor debt in 30 days. I had to use my time and my, history and good reputation to get bags just dropped into the store.
Every relationship you've ever had.
Yeah, bro, come on. I need you to call so-and-so and tell them I'm cool. I need this drop to the store, you know? And so it ended up being pretty cool. And we resolved, and that 3-letter group helped resolve some of their own debt too, because that would have been a serious big issue. So they helped resolve some of their debt. We were able to get the brands back in the store.
Good.
So there's just this now the receivership had it, and I started to give a lot of pushback with the receivership because they were telling me we're going to bring High Times into the store.
Oh.
And I was like, what? How
nice.
The fuck does that work? First of all, I called my attorney and I was like, you can't do that. You can't bring High Times into a cookie store. This is just all bad. Maybe you don't know.
You don't get to bring Pepsi into Coke.
No, you don't get to do that.
Even High Times is Coke or Pepsi.
Yeah, no. So it was that was the first pushback, and they're like, how do you're going to tell me? And then the second one is and then we're also going to cut the COD vendors. You're talking about cutting 40% off my top shelf.
Right.
No. If you don't have these, the store is going to tank. I'm going to tell you that right now. There's certain brands that you have to have in the store to turn the volume. And they just said, you know what? We don't really like you telling us what to do. It's I fired again.
This time not for giving out free burgers.
Not for giving out free burgers, no. It was for like really just standing my ground on the principle, you know, and I'm fine with that. Like, it caused a lot of trickle effect, and it was really screwed up pretty much how the whole thing had like went down. But at the end of the day, it's a learning experience. I learned a lot. I think people need to get off Berner's case a little bit, unless they know like the whole story about like how operations are run or like what's really going on behind the scenes with product distribution or any of that. Like,
I mean, listen, when you're at the top, like the target's always on your back. I think Berner knows that.
Dude, the cockroaches just come out.
Right.
Like when you have like money now, like they just they're like
any way they can try to steal it from you.
Oh yeah. Anyway, making up bullshit lies, like you know, and that's like the other thing I kind of want to touch on is like the other day someone's like, yeah, you know, like this new partner you had is like talking about how he got fucked over, and I'm like, what? Like what? Like that's like pure insanity, and like I got audio, video, paperwork, you know, like just like everything I say I could back up 100%. But
recently, like there's been a lot of people talking about the lemonade store because Elliot Lewis from Catalyst bought it.
He did, yeah.
Or took their group took it over.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they bought it from the receivership.
Right. Talk a little bit about that. Do you have did he talk to you? Do you have a relationship with him?
Elliot and I have talked. I don't think I should probably talk about like all the things that we've talked about, but we've talked. Okay. Good relationship, no beef. Like I actually think it's going to be a beautiful fit for that store and for the demographic.
This is kind of their first venture up into like that far north, right?
Yeah. You know, I think they picked a good spot. There's just like a couple things about the Antioch Green Zone that they should have like done a little bit better. Like they grouped a lot of dispensaries really close together.
Right. Yeah, that
you gotta have like competitive products, menus, and like people like what they like, you know?
Right.
And it's hard. You know, I bartended a lot in my store too. Like just like even though,
of course, I mean, you're a real legacy owner. like you're gonna get in front of behind the counter. You're gonna walk out, talk to customers.
Oh yeah,
like
I loved it too. Like I just wanted to bring back like that old school dynamic that like got lost in a lot of things. You know, like I want to talk to the 80-year-old lady who's like coming
and
in
know her first
like,
name and know what strain she likes.
Like I love it when people bring their pets. We have like dog trees. You know, like bring everybody. Like you know, 21 and over. But
back
like bring your 21 and over people.
Remember, like it was like a community, like it was eclectic, like a bunch of different people. It's not like that anymore, and I really do hope that we can get it back.
Really great stories like of that time era, like through the 90s, you know, and like people really just don't understand. And actually, like I kind of want to tie the story with like the current day of what you're talking about when people don't really like understand is like I had this lady who like came in. She was a caregiver at the time, you know, like she didn't have a car, but she was a caregiver for her 14-year-old daughter.
A caregiver was somebody who didn't have their actual recommendation, but had a recommendation to take care of somebody in their home or somebody else.
Correct. Right. Yeah. And sometimes the person they were taking care of, though, were minors. They were not of adult age.
Right.
And so, like,
and that was kind of sketch back then. It wasn't like now.
Super sketch because, like, here's this mom. She came in, and her daughter's like 13, 14 at the time, and she was dying of leukemia. She was put on hospice. Like, the daughter's dying. Like, there's not going to be saving this little girl.
Right.
And
God, that's so sad.
I know I'm gonna cry. Like, I always think about the story, and I always like cry. You know, but someone ratted her out for like giving her daughter cannabis, and the CPS came and they took her kid away like as she was dying. And a lot of people like really just don't understand the risk that we have taken to bring legalization. Like Prop 215 was like really cool in a lot of ways, but it had limitations. Like it didn't set the standard for like buying and selling cannabis, right? So like we've adopted Prop 64. So like we had to set the stage of what this was. And so like now you've got like people like coming in and, you know, I just want to give you a prime example. Like I would go out and like bud tend on the floor just to see what people want, like the demographic, the age range, like what were people looking for? What, you know, like what's, and I'm the buyer. So like I want to like buy appropriately. Right. So like, I would talk to people and I would push brands like Jason Washington, shout out with Plants Over Pills.
Plants Over Pills, Jay.
I love Jason. Yeah, he's
legacy operator, formerly incarcerated, feds.
Yes. So he came to me and he was like, you know, can you like, I want to put my brand in your store. And I learned his story and I'm like, fuck yes, I'm going to put your brand in the store. Like, in fact, I'm going to move Stizzy off. I'm going to put you right here. So that's like kind of what I did. And, you know, it's that soft spot from just being from that era and like having a dad in prison. So like I understand the family dichotomy of having someone in prison and then like also like, you know, the risk. So like I would talk to patients or people, you know, without patients anymore under Prop C4. I would talk to the 21 and over group.
I would talk to the 21 plus.
Yeah, I would talk to the 21 plus. And I would, you know, I would show them like a new brand on the market, like something they hadn't seen before. And I would tell the story and they'd be like, I'm going to go with this brand. Right. And I started to ask people like, if this product is really good and it's $3 cheaper than this product is not as great, why would you pick this one over that one? And it literally just came back down to like the whole brand loyalty because we've tried this before and we already know we like it. Right. And I'm like, but what if this person spent 8 years in prison to bring this product, to bring legalization? And like, I'm going to tell you the amount of times that I heard people say like, I don't care. I don't care. Like, imagine somebody telling I don't care. The risk that you took to have this podcast, to write your book, and the time that you spent to bring legalization, somebody tell you like you don't care. Right. And so like my why was starting to change inside the store anyways, you know, like, and so my why became because I wanted to like really connect with people and love people and like give to the community. And then it just kind of seems like if we don't start to educate the consumers about brands and like where we come from, then the whole entire industry is going to just be toast. The culture of the industry is going to be toast anyways.
Absolutely.
To the culture vultures.
I was actually talking to Berner about this yesterday about like stories and brands. And when you have a brand that just has artwork or something and they're just trying to sell off, oh, look at our cool splash or our cool color scheme, like it's super hollow, right? Like it's hard to sell that.
Sometimes it's like literally the same wholesale as the bag next to it with a different brand.
It might even be the same weed. Yeah, it could literally be the same weed.
It could potentially be the same batch. Yeah,
and I know like what you're saying because I see it. Like I'm in the stores, you know, several times a week. We're doing demos all the time and stuff like that, and I see the customers that you're talking about are saying they don't care. It's literally like price point and brand loyalty.
How much THC is in the bag?
Right, and yeah. Which, man, stop buying weed from THC percentage. Man, please. It would literally be situations where they would walk in and say, oh, like, I just buy Stizzy or I just buy this X brand or whatever it is. Yeah. And it was sad to me at first, right? But the more and more like that I go into it, they're just victims of like marketing, right? Stizzy has like really good marketing and the bigger brands have all these like really good marketing.
The nicer the package, like
They got good CEOs that come over from Red Bull and all these marketing geniuses, right? And they spend millions and millions of dollars on marketing, and the smaller mom and pop brands.
You can't hate against it.
No, you can't.
You can't really like hate against it too much, like true. You know, and like one of the things they want to say is like, you're talking about like, there's like 3 main groups of people that swarm around here. And like one of them's like, you've got your advocates that like love weed. That's great. Like it's happy, you know, and then you've got like operators and then you've got your consumers. Right. And here's a little something that I want to like kind of talk about for a minute.
Okay.
So, like,
come on, talk about it, girl.
You know, one of the hardest challenges I think that I've had inside the cannabis industry is like taking the love of advocacy and the love of the plant and like all the really cool healing benefits that it has, or like how someone could, you know, internally change their own consciousness, like around cannabis, right? It's got all these really amazing properties. And I call that the like the natural law vibe of weed, right? Like it's like Jesus walking around healing people. Like it has this wonderful like.
Are you saying weed is profit?
I am. Good one.
But you know, I feel you on that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So like it has like all these wonderful, amazing abilities, right? But then there's like when you're an operator, like you've got to deal with all the money side. Yeah. Like you've got to make
business side to it.
Hard decisions and cramming like merchant law into natural law is like two repelling like magnets. Like they don't work. They don't work in the same space. It's really hard. And I don't like, I wish people would just kind of like stop trying to cram to two as much as we love it. And we would love to just like, oh, I make money like doing, okay, well just pick one. Like either be an advocate or be an operator who just loves weed, because like you've got to make really hard business decisions. Sometimes you got investors to deal with, you've got bottom lines, and I cannot take an envelope full of love to pay my employees every Friday. Oh, no. I cannot pay my $18,000 in rent, you know, like at the store with love. like it only goes so far.
Right.
So like if you want to have a successful business, like
love don't cash at the bank.
No, it really doesn't. And I think that's like it's maybe a harsh thing to say, but it's actually just the truth about it is like you've got to be on the money vibe if you want to have a successful business. And so like you're saying, like the marketing and all the millions of dollars that are spent to like create a brand, it's the business side of it.
Well, I mean, I'm going to use myself. I love the plant, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, like I still have to pay bills. I still have to make a living, right?
Yeah,
and
unfortunately, we don't like live in a free society. You know?
Right. I mean, that would be awesome. If I just got free weed and free rent and free everything, then I wouldn't care then.
You'd be a communist. You'd be a commie.
Right. I'd be a communist.
Maybe it wouldn't be that cool.
Right. So, but like, I think that's the problem with a lot of social equity operators is that like we have a situation where we have an individual that loves weed, maybe sold weed, maybe grew weed or whatever, whatever their situation was. Right. But maybe necessarily doesn't have the business background.
100%.
And then they come out of prison or they maybe, or they come to the front of the line to grab this license that they think is going to be like a golden ticket, right? For generational wealth and all these things. And what they see is like, oh shit, like there's a whole business side to this that I have no idea how to operate.
And it requires a lot of capital.
Huge amount of capital.
I always tell people, if you don't have $2 million, like, please just don't hawk your grandma's house. Like, at one point, I was going to just start a consulting business, and then I realized it would just be so jaded. Because, like...
Right. You'd be mad after all the brands that failed after, like, after you gave them really good game.
Yeah, like, I talked more people out of it than, like, just, like, actually, like, take their money.
You're the mechanic that was like, nah, you really don't need that part.
Yeah. Like, and it wasn't a good fit for me, but...
You're, like, too honest of a consultant.
Yeah, like, oh, please don't do that, you know.
You're like, nah, you're a fail, sorry. You don't have 2 M's? Sorry.
Yeah. No, but, I mean, those are the true hard facts that the barrier to entry is extremely high. I wish that was changed. I wish for the people who really do just like love weed, and I'm saying I'm not one of them. I came in with that vision and that intent,
right? And
it chews you up and flips you out like 7 ways sideways. But it's like, it's just they're two realms that don't really work so well together.
Right. You wrote a book recently.
Yes.
Talk to me about the process of writing it. What was that like?
Well, when I got fired from my own store, I really
You're like,
pissed
I got
off.
some time on my hands now, and I'm mad as shit.
And I'm not the type of person that you're not going to follow me around with a camera and like 2 pictures of my life and like talking. I'm very quiet.
You're not a reality TV girl?
I'm pretty, no. Like, I am definitely not like the look at me person.
Like, you're not going to throw the drink on the girl in the club?
And also to the girls who stand in cultivations with their chonies out, please stop. Like, it's just like so bad. It's like such a bad look.
You don't like the G-strings in the grow rooms?
No. It's just like, bro, come on. You give girls like us that are trying to hustle and do real shit like a bad.
That's
like,
real talk.
I don't like it. Like, there's so much bullshit that I had to go through to like even get any of the permits that I've acquired, and I wrote 14 permits actually in like California. So like,
ooh, so hold up, 14 permits, that went through.
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, it's
if you need a license in another state, you better hit Patti O'Brien.
Yeah, 14, if it's in another state, I'm going to charge
14 under her belt.
We wrote these permits, and I had just been through so much. And when I got home, I was just so mad, but I stayed so quiet about a lot of stuff. We had like lawsuits and litigations on the back end going on currently.
Right, where you can't talk about certain shit.
Yeah, I can't talk about a lot of things, but and that's fine.
There's a lot of shit that I know you have in there that I wish you could talk about.
Oh man, I have so much stuff. Like, I would piss off a lot of people with this podcast. I'd probably get sued like 100 times.
You're gonna have to come back on the show when you can talk more.
Yeah, like it's just like the video, the audio, like the fucking real shit that you have. But like, I just never really wanted to like air my business like publicly.
No, I feel
like,
that.
I don't want to like also be.
We come from an era though that we're like cameras and shit were not cool.
Yeah. No, and I don't need any of that to like make money.
Right.
Truthfully, and most of the people I do know making money are not on a podcast of any variety, and they're definitely not like showing bags like on Instagram. They're not like they're not doing
twerking in the grow room.
No, they're certainly not twerking in the grow room. Girls, please stop doing that. So, so like I came home and I was just like mad, and I felt like I had a cumulative of we're talking 25 years.
Right.
in the cannabis industry. And so
25 years. 25 years.
Yeah. I had a girl one time, actually, she like came into the store and she was like, oh my God, yeah, like I'm such an OG in the industry. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like,
I've been
that's
here
great.
since 21.
She was like, at first I was like, oh, this is dope. You know, I was like, oh, congratulations.
Like,
That's really
five,
cool.
Girl, comrade.
Yeah. I was like, how many years have you been in the industry for? And she was like, 4. And I was like, oh.
Super
like,
OG.
Sometimes you might want to be careful who you're talking to.
Right.
Like,
The word OG might not mean the same thing to certain people.
Yeah, it might not. So, you know, I came home and it was just a way to like heal and just release from like all of it. And it was really
therapeutic.
It was very therapeutic to just write a book about, you know, some of the stories from the 90s, the flow of like kind of some of the stuff we talked about to like where we are and like what it really takes to get an operator's license. Like now, like they're just for sale. You can go get one.
Right.
You know?
Just hit WhatsApp.
Yeah, just like go on and just go buy one. But like this was like, you know, we had to like scour green zones and like do a bunch of crazy shit, pitch investors, deal with like drama. Like there was,
way
you
harder.
know, spent $780,000 in legal fees, like for like public acquisition deals. And like, you know, just like there was a lot of other shit that like had went down. But like you said, when someone sees money at the table, everyone jumps up like they're entitled to a piece of it.
Oh, yeah.
So like you gotta like kind of battle through like some of that situation. And so I talk about that a lot in my book.
What's the working title of the book?
Oh, you're gonna love this. It's called As the Joint Burns. Like as the world turns, but like as the joint burns.
Right.
And I wrote it in sort of like an amusing, funny way, like a
in
funny
your personality,
in like a funny soap opera. Yeah.
Right.
And so it's not like heavy. It's like an easy to read. It's at the you know, I sent it to a publisher for like edits back, and there's a piece in my book that just said, you know, but this story is like Avery's to tell. And right now I'm like, Avery just passed away. About
rest in power.
Yeah, like 2 months ago. And now I feel very compelled to have like, I took the book back and I'm rewriting some of Avery's story into the book with his daughter's, you know, consent.
Okay.
And so I definitely, it would have probably already been to market, but my book was dedicated to Avery.
This is
and I was so excited.
Edition. This is a meaningful edition.
Yeah, I was really excited. Like when I was first done writing it, like I was like, oh, I got to call Avery and I got to like tell him like I, you know, like dedicated my book to him.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
I said, no, give him the final copy because it's just classier.
Right.
You know, give him the final, like this is about you, you know, like you and me, like, you know, and when I was writing the book, I was like going through like all of these crazy scenarios that I put Avery in.
You're like, I don't know if he want me to talk about that actually.
No, like it was fine, really. Like, but like, you know, like, oh my God, this truck driver just dropped 25 tires off in the Lemonnade Antioch parking lot and they broke into the store and shit on the sheetrock.
Oh my God.
Like,
did that really happen?
Yes.
God.
So like I'd have
you
to
can't
like
make that up.
No, you can't. Like we had just done like a cool build out and like someone broke into the store. Cause like there's like a spot where you gotta like apply for the like the final security plans and stuff at the city, and you know the photo lighting plans and all the plans got to go into the city. So like you don't want to spend money on a big security system when there's nothing in there.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like we didn't know also how like the other cookies group was going to the cookies group that's not Cookies Enterprises.
The 3-letter group.
We didn't know how they were going to like want to do some of the build out either with the cookies aesthetic. So, you know, I had to send Avery a lot. Poor Avery. So like, you know, and just like kind of like looking back after writing the book, like, I feel very honored to like go back and write some of Avery's section as something to tell because he was a very modest guy.
Right. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And so I'm working on that now and almost done, about like 98% done. And it'll come out this spring.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Are you going to self-release it on Amazon?
Well, I'm not actually like, maybe not. Like are you
going to do some major publishing shit?
I got a 6,000 platform distribution deal.
Wow.
Yeah. And so like I haven't signed it yet.
Are they going to give you an advance? Make sure they give you an advance, girl.
I don't even, but see, like the thing is, I don't want to give up the percentage on the back end.
Right.
So like, it's not even like, I'm fine.
Listen, I'm going to tell you as an author, like we don't make a lot of money like off these copies. Even when you do it, like I'm self-published. through Angela Baca, shout out Angela and Flower Valley Press. But like when you go through Amazon, like Amazon gets their cut, the publisher gets a certain percentage, the person that prints the book gets a certain percentage. By the end of the day, what the author gets is not too much.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I'll buy my own printing press. I don't know.
You seem like the type that would do some shit like that. You're like, nah, fuck that. I'm buying my own printing press. We're starting a publishing company. Let's go.
Yeah. No, like I'm too busy for that. But like, yeah, I don't know. I haven't quite decided which avenue I'm going to take on that yet. Like there's some good offers on the table. Maybe I might just want to self-publish to control it a little bit more.
What's the book about? Like, what do you talk about that you think is like is it just about a period of your life? Is it about your whole life? What?
No, it's not about my whole life. I think my life's been pretty boring, maybe. Like, I don't know. Like,
you're not talking about Kentucky at all.
No. Like, although it's like pretty cool if I was to talk about Kentucky, I could tell you that my great-grandfather was a tobacco farmer.
Wow.
And so like before he passed away as a kid, like, I have fond memories of like running through tobacco farms, going to cure houses. Like,
wow.
So like farming and stuff is really like very heavily ingrained in my DNA.
Okay. So you were going to be a legacy grower, like no matter what.
I feel like that's just the way it sort of happened. Yeah.
Right.
Like,
and you didn't have a chance.
My grandma on my dad's side, who I've never met, she like died when I was a baby. And, I said my dad was in prison, but she used to dress as a man and go work in the coal mines in Kentucky.
Holy shit.
Yeah. She had like a lot of kids. So she had to like make do and no husband. So like she worked as a man. So I think I come from like a stock of like really strong women.
Irish.
Yeah.
Irish women.
You can't get more Irish than Patti O'Brien.
Nah, my mom's Irish. Trust me. I know like Irish women, you don't fuck with Irish women.
Yeah.
At all.
I don't know. Like maybe.
Mandy's Irish too.
I get free drinks every time I go to a bar though. Cause like there's a drink called like if I go to an Irish bar. A drinker. Yeah. If I go to an Irish bar, there's a drink called a Patti O'Brien. And so,
Are you serious?
Yeah, so like every time they look at my ID, well, when they used to look at my ID, like they
still look at your ID, girl.
They just throw them across the table, like Patti O'Brien drinks. So that's just kind
We're
of
gonna have to drink one of those.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to drink a Patti O'Brien with Patti O'Brien.
That'd be actually pretty fun.
That would be, like for me, it would be. For you, it might be a little bit weird that I'm drinking Patti O'Brien, but
no, I mean I didn't make it. Like, but I'll drink it with you.
Right on.
It's like a whiskey, like Irish car bomb kind of thing.
What made you get into real estate? Was that just
brokers and their bullshit broker fee?
Okay, so it was another thing about buying the publishing company.
Yeah.
You were like, fuck selling the houses, buying houses from these people. I'm gonna do my own thing.
No, like, there's kind of two avenues that inspired that, and like one of them was, like when I bought my house, I re-renovated it, fixed it up, and flipped it, and made like an extra like $350 off of it.
Wow.
So, like, I kind of really love design and building. Like, honestly, if you sit here and ask me if there's anything I could probably do that I would want to do moving forward, I'd probably tell you I want to be a developer. Like, I want to, like, build houses and design them. And I love the architectural process. I love to see, like, the process from, like, beginning to end.
So would you want to build your own house?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to do that. Like, I'm working on that right now. So
that's
like,
a bucket list goal.
Yeah. I'm working on building. So, like, I'm going to bring my mom back from Kentucky. And I'm looking at like a 15-acre parcel like up in Southern Oregon, and we'll probably just build 2 houses on it.
Oh, wow. What state are you excited about? Like if you just say, hey, like your best friend's asking you, where do I go from California? What state are you most excited about right now? Or like just
like
do you
honestly,
think
like I think anywhere outside of California is probably a bonus right now.
Anywhere outside of here, right?
Anywhere. Pick a state that has no income tax. Like
right.
Yeah. So like that's kind of like my motivators. Like I think that California is overregulated. The policy is bad. I just it's just my personal opinion. Maybe other people would disagree,
true.
But
I think both sides of the aisle agree that California is overregulated.
Yeah.
For sure.
A lot of bad policy in California. I mean, a lot of overspending and bad policy.
A lot of overtaxation.
Yeah.
A lot of like, just the cannabis industry. Look at that's a good indicator. Like the way it's taxed now, the way it's overregulated now, it's unsustainable. The cannabis
industry, hard.
It will literally die if it doesn't stop being overtaxed and overregulated.
That was like some of the motivation too of like selling the Oakland stores. Like my friend, who's also a CPA, was like, just doesn't make any sense. The numbers aren't making any sense.
Like run these numbers out
15
and you end up
plus
dead.
15 plus 2 plus like, like they were like compounding the tax. And by the end, you're like at over 40% of a taxation. And he was just like, don't be the last person holding the bag on this. Like, just get rid of it, And so the taxes, if you want to be an operator, like I think you should definitely look at the cities that have the lower tax brackets for sure, because it's really going to be life. It's going to be whether you could pay your rent that or not that month,
or
like
make
if you
payroll.
could pay your payroll. Yeah. Right. So it's definitely like a lot of people don't understand, like, you're paying like $400,000, in taxes, like sometimes a month and sometimes a quarter, depending on the flow.
In all the midst of like that craziness and the overtaxation, I could see why a lot of people are really like disgruntled and don't want to like help out people and stuff like that. But I want to say, like, Patti, something that you've done is you've always been like an advocate. When I was in prison, I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. When I was in prison, I reached out to you actually when you first built out the lemonade store.
Yeah.
And we had conversation about social justice initially. And you were like 100% down for everything that was going on. And I just want to say, like, thank you for that. The men and women who are still locked up right now, who are watching our show, who need inspiration and need to know that like there's people out here that care about them coming out, care about their sacrifice. You're one of them. So I just want to I want to say thank you for that.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's a pleasure. It's a soft spot for me, for many reasons, but I think that what we need to do if we want to be a successful cannabis industry, like maybe we should start like focusing on programs, because like the overregulation doesn't allow you to have a felon working on site.
Right.
And so there is no program for people to like come into. Well, there is programs, but like not in the cannabis industry. There's no program really where you can like come out of prison and touch the plant again.
Right.
Right. Like there's
really?
like when there's an opportunity to like teach or educate, like they have to go outside of that box and, they got to like come up to speed on the whole game.
Right.
That's a whole lot of years in the making. Like, I don't know how long these people have been in prison for, but like you come out, like it's a whole different territory. Like, you used to be able to buy weed from Canada for $10,000 a pound.
Yeah.
Like you think about that, like right now, and that's like some crazy shit, it's just changed. Like there has to be some education and if we can somehow like work to like say that like, if you've been if you have a qualification as an equity person, because you've been arrested for cannabis, like why are we have no regulations?
Right.
There's like the expungement process, sure.
Right.
But like,
yeah, you shouldn't be penalized because you were early on this plant. Like that part is crazy. And I think you're right. I think like regulations and even like investment people and all those like loan officers and all this stuff, like all of that regulation has to catch up to the times. There's companies that won't lend to certain cannabis companies because say an executive has a felony, and when that could be a completely social equity situation or social justice situation. So I agree 100% on that. What do you have coming up? What's next for Patti O'Brien?
Well, I think I need a vacation. For starters, I've looked at Greece. Like,
okay,
maybe get a little vacation in. But what's
Europe?
Next?
You're looking at Europe. Greece. The islands. You're going to be in the Mediterranean.
Yeah, for like a minute. I think I just need some good food and sun. Like when the time is right.
You're a traveler. I've seen like you kind of bounce around.
Yeah, I like to just like get out, and meet new people, and like see new things.
Right.
But the next thing that's like really on my plate is I'm working on a project right now. I've worked with some engineers and we're trying to like put a lot of stuff together. I feel excited again about it. It's not in the cannabis industry. It's more in the hemp space. It'll be more into like manufacturing production, but
the hemp space is interesting right now.
Yeah. It's, lower taxes, global
distribution,
global markets. Like, so, I'm working on something there, and I'll talk about it when it's like
right.
When you can like walk into the spot and it's fully operational is when I'll talk about it.
Right. You don't want to count your chickens before they're hatched.
No, I don't. And it's actually like it's going to be a really big learning curve for me because like some of the equipment is so large, and it's like almost close to like $780,000 worth of equipment that has to go into this. And so like I've had to talk to like engineers that have more experience with large scale operations into this arena. But I'm here for it. Like I'll work there day and night. I'll sleep there. Like I don't really care. Like I feel really excited about this.
I have a feeling this is going to be pretty successful.
I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Right.
If anything, it's going to help a lot of people. So
where can people find you at? Where can people tap in with you?
Well, I have a public page that people can tap into. I don't really post that much on it. I actually just kind of like just started like posting stuff on it.
Okay.
Like I don't. And I don't accept people I don't know on my Instagram.
Okay,
like,
so if you're a friend of Patti, you can tap in. If not, sorry.
If you're part of the circle, you're part of the circle.
Right, if you're in the inner circle, I like that. That's some real legacy shit right there. Oh, man.
We've learned my lessons.
Thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
This was so awesome. Like, this is like not only like our connection, but just your story. You're so interesting. You have a beautiful story. What you're doing now is lovely. This was a really awesome show.
Yeah, I appreciate you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in to another show of Joint Forces. Please like, subscribe, hit that comment button, and tap in with us.